What's up, team? I hope you are doing well today. I know that I am because, as I often allege, today is a good day to talk about cancer. Not because it's necessarily fun all the time, but because it is good for my mental health. And the hope is that if you are going through cancer or someone you care about is that you can get some informational benefit out of it, or you can get those reciprocal mental health benefits. I kind of view this as like asynchronous group therapy, which I guess makes me the moderator. So if that's the case, let's get right to it. All right, so today I thought I would give you guys an update on how treatment has been going for me. I'm essentially 5 months into a year of doing Braftovi and Mektovi. Those are pills that I take every day for the recurrence of stage 4 metastatic melanoma. If you don't know, I've been dealing with melanoma for nearly 7 years. Off and on, I've had 2 remissions, 2 recurrences. That makes this the 3rd time I'm doing treatment. And my prognosis is seemingly good. The reason I can say that with some confidence is because I sat down with my oncologist the other day and we had this kind of discussion about the holistic of how treatment has been going. You know, what it was like for the first 5 months, what our plans are for the next 7 months of the prescribed time, and then what the plan is after that, assuming my health remains similar to what it is now. I guess in that sense, I should start by talking about the most constant, the thing that is keeping my health theoretically stable for the entirety of this year, the treatment itself. This is Braftovi and Mektovi. I don't know if you can see that very well, but these are 4 Braftovi capsules, and these little orange guys are the Mektovi, and I throw them into my face every single day to the tune of a few $1,000s if you believe what insurance will say. In fact, my oncologist and I did a very benevolent thing. We cut Pfizer and the big bad bureaucratic wolf of insurance some slack when we reduced my dose from 6 and 3 every morning to 4 and 2. I felt so bad that they were getting charged so much. Actually, just kidding. It's because I had some gnarly side effects and we felt that it would be a better course of action to do a reduced dose because the risk of side effects is lower and the kind of efficacy of the drugs seemingly remains the same. These are really new drugs, so every case is kind of N of 1, and the decisions we make are based on where I'm at in terms of disease progression or regression, how my body's handling it, and what the plan is, so let's now get to that. A pretty cool sentence that I get to say as I sit here and record in early January of 2025 is that I am technically cancer-free. I'm cancer-free on paper. I am radiologically cancer-free. We just did a biopsy of the affected area where we removed the malignant lymph node that had been the recurrence. The tissue there was devoid of melanoma, so cancer-free in that sense too, which is the most accurate one, but there is a caveat. It is kind of expected for me to not have cancer in my body at this point in time. Not only do Braftovi and Mektovi work super quickly, but we surgically removed that one spot. So it's less about what is happening right now because you can develop a resistance pretty quickly to these drugs. And you know, stage 4 melanoma is both aggressive and recurrent. So for me to be here, it makes sense, and I think it's more about waiting 7 months to kind of see where I'm at the end of this prescribed term of Braftovi and Mektovi. Then, if I remain cancer-free, I think it's safe to say that I will start remission and hope for the best. Also, I don't want to imply that it's just a given. I'm going to get through these next 7 months without a recurrence. Like, the trajectory seems good. My oncologist and I both feel pretty comfortable with the situation, but this stuff is very, very volatile. These drugs are very new. Stage 4 melanoma, very aggressive. Like, some days I feel like I'm mocking cancer. Other days I feel like cancer is mocking me. Right now it feels like I have the upper hand, but I mean, I've gotten comfortable a couple times. Don't really want to be in the business of doing that. Right now it kind of seems like it is on me to not develop more side effects that I've already encountered so I can stay on this dose because we were at a higher dose and had to reduce it. The side effects that I've been getting on a day-to-day basis, you know, some days I'll have like light sensitivity, I'll get dizzy, I'll be a little nauseous, I'm fatigued here and there. For the most part, the day-to-day stuff has been really, really smooth though. I could not complain, you know, based on hearing other people's accounts of what Braftovi and Mektovi have done, I feel like I'm getting the easy end of it right now and you know, never going to complain about that. And maybe this is where I'll give myself a little bit of credit too. I often talk about, you know, getting cancer, treating cancer, things surrounding cancer as very luck-based, and that is true for sure. Our genetics and a whole host of other environmental factors are at play that we don't really control. But in this 5 months of cancer treatment, I have done my job, which is to give myself the best chance of, you know, working with these drugs to give myself better outcomes. And I'm talking about, you know, sleeping a lot, hydrating a lot, exercising a lot, eating all the right foods. And some of these things seem like givens. I do want to address this in a more acute sense and just saying, hey, I'm doing the right things because it's the internet. Everyone will tell you, they'll be like, oh, do this diet or fast or, you know, approach this using this protocol. You fucking do it. I mean, I've had cancer for 7 years. I don't mean to sound snarky in any way. There was an overwhelming amount of information, both good and bad, about how you can deal with cancer. But the reality is that when you're dealing with cancer, you're also injecting these ideas into a human life. And people are not perfect. I mean, you think about the diet that you eat or the lifestyle that you have, and if it's perfect, you can give me advice, but I really doubt it is. And so I've been trying really hard though to eat super cleanly and make sure that, like, you know, if the recommendation is to drink buckets of water every day to deal with Braftovi and Mektovi, that's what I'm doing. If, you know, I need to sleep 8, 9, 10 hours, which I've been doing a lot, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying not to stress as much. You know, get where I'm going. It's not like I'm perfect at any of these things. I have a sweet tooth. I've probably had a few beers in the last few months, which if you told college me that a few beers, literally like a few beers in a few months, I would laugh and be like, oh, you're completely sober? Yeah, essentially, but you know, I still have my vices and I still try and let myself do that because otherwise I'm not enjoying life. I talk about that all the time. My goal is to live life, not exist, and it is a fine line. It's a really weird mental place, and maybe we'll talk about mental health right now because I'm kind of getting that way anyway. Actually, before I get to that, I want to take a second to kind of clarify the statement I made earlier. I got a little bit riled up when I was addressing how people give advice on the internet to cancer patients. And it's not just the internet, it's in real life too. I mean, I've been told the craziest things possible, or maybe not the craziest things possible that I just don't listen to, because the reality is when you get diagnosed with cancer, you know, especially serious advanced cancer, you have to choose what your course of action is. There's no laws that you have to do, you know, traditional Western medicine treatment. There are no laws that say you can't incorporate holistic medicine into what you're doing. And actually, I do, you know, I fast at times, I take supplements, I try and eat very cleanly because I believe there are benefits to the lifestyle stuff, to the potential holistic treatment stuff that goes on surrounding the traditional medicine that I choose. That's the choice that I've made. If it turns out down the line that that's wrong, I was working with the information I had. I was working, you know, with the instincts that I've had that I should listen to an oncologist or other medical professionals rather than random ass people on the internet. And I'm not saying that you're not qualified to give someone advice. You are. It just gets overwhelming. Cancer patients really get tired of people saying, "Hey, there's this miracle drug, this miracle herb, this other miracle drug. There's a supplement. You need to fast. You need to do this." If every cancer patient listened to every suggestion that they got from people in person and online, there'd be 20,000 different things that we were trying. And I mean, maybe probably literally hundreds of things that, one, are conflicting, two, are impossible to do all of them. And I have yet to hear from someone why their specific remedy that isn't just go through treatment and hope for the best is conclusively better. And at least we have some data for most of these treatments. So that's the path I'm taking. And if you're a patient or someone who, you know, has a loved one who's going through cancer, please, like, make sure that you're not overwhelmed by this stuff. It can get really noisy, and it's not like I don't have my doubts. You know, every time I do something that, like, every time I eat candy, or every time that I drink a beer, or every time I'm out in the sun, or every time someone says, "Hey, there's this miracle drug," my brain does go, "Well, what if that's right, or what if that's wrong?" And you know, you just have to make your bed. I think that's the conclusion I've come to. And even though I've had multiple recurrences, you know, it kind of paints me as foolish, like something isn't working perfectly. But I also don't know the extent of the damage if I hadn't gone this route for treatment. That's how life is anyway, with whatever you're doing. You know, you took a job, you married a person, you don't know what the alternatives were. You're just living life with the information you have, and that's what I'm doing as a cancer patient. I'm not actually sure that cleared anything up, but I just kind of had to get that off my chest. In fact, that might have been the rant of a crazy person, so let's segue now to mental health. How am I doing mental health-wise 5 months into treatment, 7 years into being an advanced cancer patient? I'm doing pretty well, I think. And it's strange to be doing well, and that gives me issues because cancer is weird. It's always going to be weird. I think this time in treatment is a little different because the first time I went through treatment, new cancer patient, really intensive treatment, really intense treatment. I just wasn't used to this entire lifestyle. I was in fight or flight for like 2 years straight. I was in remission for 4 years after that. And so then to have a recurrence 2 years ago, it was really alarming. It really put me back into that high risk stage 4 category, and the treatment like fucked me up. You know, I had hepatitis and colitis and gastritis, and we had to pause after a couple of treatments. And even though I made it to remission, it was like this really, really intense battle. Now, maybe it's just because I've done it so many times, or because the treatment is easier physically on me so far. I'm just in this weird zone where I've allocated this year for cancer treatment. You know, I'm starting to work a little bit less. I have, carved out these areas in my life where, like I said, I'm sleeping more, I'm paying attention to my diet, I'm spending more money and time on these things in order for me to be more comfortable. And yet, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, what do I do for this next 7 months? How do I protect the investments I'm making, or how do I make this a useful 7 months if I'm not being like persistently messed up by this treatment? Because I don't have to be, I don't want to be, and in fact I could continue living my life. I talked about this in the last video I made. At some point in time I need to accept that, like, I might just be having cancer off and on for as long as I live. However many years that is. It could be 2, it could be 5, it could be 20, it could be 50. You know, the point is, this seems like it might be somewhat chronic. And so maybe this year is becoming a little bit of an adjustment period for that. And I need to calibrate my mental health around that notion rather than just saying like, okay, in treatment is like fight or flight, and then out of treatment is recovery. There might be a blend that I have to get to, and maybe that's what I should be working on in a mental health sense. But once again, I don't know, and we don't get do-overs. We don't get to go back and say, hey, maybe I should have played this differently in the way I approached this year. At least I don't want to have to repeat any of these years in any sense. So right now, I'm just kind of, pushing through and working with what's in front of me. And I think maybe that's the takeaway from this video, is that nobody is perfect in anything that we're doing. We are all kind of making educated guesses or maybe uneducated guesses, but a lot of it is guesswork. And I don't want to lie to myself, or I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to imply that everything I'm doing is so structured and so well thought out. At the end of the day, my body rebelled, and all of a sudden I'm 7 years into dealing with it, and I still have no idea how I'm supposed to feel. So I'll take, confused and not having cancer in my body at the moment. That's a good setup. I'd rather have that than be so sure of what I'm supposed to do and yet still have active cancer. I will wrap this up by saying it's 5 months in, treatment's going well, my mental health is going well, the confusion is okay, it's cancer, it's always going to be weird, and that's the summation. If you've stuck around for this last very rambly part, that's 2 videos in a row where I kind of just went like, nyeh. But if you've stuck around this long, really do appreciate it. It's always cathartic for me to get this off my chest. If you couldn't tell, I had some things to say today. I hope that you found some of it helpful, or that if you know someone who's going through cancer, you can maybe show them, they might find it helpful too. Like and subscribe, all that good shit, yada, yada, yada. Talk to you later. Bye.